Have you ever gotten a text that shatters your entire world, but also becomes the key that sets you free? Mine came at 3 in the morning, not from a friend, but from an anonymous enemy. I thought my husband was 8,000 kilometers away in Zurich, Switzerland, until a text told me he was in New Orleans. I booked the flight. My name is Eliza Vance. I am 38 years old, and I live in a glass box in the sky. Our Denver penthouse has floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the entire Front Range, a view that costs more than most people make in a decade. Julian chose the apartment. He chose the minimalist furniture, all chrome and white leather, that always feels cold to the touch. Tonight, it feels colder than usual. On paper, my life is perfect. I am married to Julian Vance, a man whose talent in private equity is matched only by his ambition. Our world is one of donors' galas, private jets, and reservations that are impossible to get. But my life is not my own. It is governed by Julian's calendar, his moods, his needs. I was not always this person. 6 years ago, I was Eliza Hayes, one of the sharpest forensic accountants at Apex Analytics. I hunted for ghosts in the ledgers, for the millions that vanish into thin air. I was good. I was respected. Then Julian proposed. I need a partner. Eliza, he said. Not just a wife, someone by my side. He asked me to quit. The long hours, the conflicts of interest. He said, I thought we were building a life. I realize now I was just liquidating mine. He is currently, supposedly, 8,000 kilometers away in Zurich. A 2-week trip. The deal of his career. That's what he called it. The first few days, the calls were short, energetic. It's going well, love, massive. Now, they are brief, almost clipped. The I miss you texts arrive exactly at 10 p.m. my time, as if scheduled. And the woman who used to spot decimal point fraud, I am left staring at my phone feeling a vague, sickening static. A discrepancy I cannot name. The anxiety is a living thing. I do what I was trained to do, I follow the money. I open the shared platinum card statement. The charges look right. A charge for $5,000 at the Boer au Lac in Zurich. Dinners at upscale restaurants. Everything is meticulously, perfectly in place. Julian is nothing if not meticulous. But the feeling only grows tighter in my chest. A knot of cold dread. It is 3:17 in the morning when the text message illuminates the bedroom. The room is silent, vast. I am the only one breathing in it. I pick up the phone. An unknown number. He's not in Zurich. He's in New Orleans with her. Hotel Monteleone. See for yourself. My heart does not pound. It stops. I read the words again and again. The static I've been feeling solidifies into a spike of ice. I do not cry. I become the woman I used to be. I open my laptop, the glow of the screen painting my face in the dark. My fingers move automatically. First, I check Find My. The app opens. Julian's icon, the one that is usually pinned to his location, is gray. Location not available. His voice echoes in my head from his last trip. I have to turn it off. Eliza, international security protocol. It's too risky. At the time, it sounded so reasonable. Second, I go to our private wealth management portal. This is where the real money is, the assets I brought into this marriage. I type in our shared password. Login failed. Incorrect password. I stare at the screen. My breath fogs the air. I type it again, slowly, ensuring every character is correct. Login failed. Incorrect password. He changed it. He changed the password. This is not a suspicion. This is not a vague feeling of unease or a simple affair. This is a confirmation. The bottom has fallen out. The cold, beautiful cage I've been living in for 6 years has just vanished, leaving me in a free fall. The panic never came. The tears never came. The woman who had hosted cocktail parties and approved floral arrangements for 6 years was gone, and the forensic accountant stepped back into the light. Eliza Vance was a ghost, Eliza Hayes was awake, and she was at her desk. I did not waste time on the wealth portal. The password change was a locked door, but it was also a message. He knew I might look. This was deliberate. I went back to the credit card statements. The charges were all there, time-stamped and categorized. The Boer au Lac, a high-end jeweler called Chopard. Another dinner for, it looked like, 8,000 Swiss francs. It was all clean. Too clean. Julian was smart, but he was also arrogant. He would not be this sloppy. This was not a cover-up. It was a performance. He was using a transaction spoofing service, a high-end digital sleight of hand to make his charges appear to be originating from Zurich when they were not. He was creating a digital alibi, one he knew I would eventually check. He was leading me down a false path. He wanted me to see Zurich. I leaned back. He had covered the basic tracks. So, I would have to find new ones. I focused on the text. The only piece of data that did not come from Julian. An unknown number. Prepaid. A digital dead end, for most people. But I still had the licenses for my old software, the subscriptions I never canceled, buried deep in a personal expense account. I routed the number through a series of nodes, running a trace that I had not performed in years. My fingers flew across the keyboard. The program was looking for a digital footprint, a cell tower ping. Anything. I expected the trace to end at a burn tower in Louisiana. I expected it to show me the phone was in New Orleans, bought for cash at a gas station. The result flashed on my screen. My blood went cold. The phone was prepaid, but its last active ping, the ping that sent the text to my phone at 3:17 a.m., was not from New Orleans. It was from a cell tower on Spear Boulevard, 3 blocks from my penthouse. My gaze drifted to the vast, dark windows. The city lights of Denver glittered back at me. I was not alone. The sender was not in New Orleans. The sender was here, watching me. Or watching Julian. This changed everything. This was not a simple, sordid affair. You do not spoof international credit card transactions, lock your wife out of a multi-million-dollar trust, and have anonymous allies in the same city for a mistress. This was something else. This was a complex, multi-layered plan. This was a conspiracy. My mind was clear. The shock had burned away, leaving only cold, hard logic. I was not a wife anymore. I was a liability, and they were all treating me as one. I pulled out a small, steel-gray laptop from the bottom of my closet, tucked under a cashmere blanket I had not used in years. This one was not connected to our home network. This one was mine. I logged into an account that Julian did not know existed, a small private bank in Kansas that I had kept open since my Apex days, funded with my last few paychecks. It was still under my maiden name. Eliza Vance was trapped in a penthouse. Eliza Hayes was free. I booked a one-way flight from Denver to New Orleans, the first one out, at 6 a.m. I paid for it from my Kansas account. I used my maiden name, Eliza Hayes. I clicked confirm. Then, I went back to my home laptop, the one Julian could probably access if he wanted to. I meticulously cleared the entire browser history. I erased the cache, the cookies, the failed login attempts to the wealth portal. I ran a cleaner program, wiping the digital breadcrumbs of my last 30 minutes of activity. I stood up and looked around the cold, silent apartment. To any outside observer, I was sleeping soundly. To Julian, I was a ghost in a machine he thought he controlled. He was wrong. I was the one who built the machine. I went to my closet, pulled out a small carry-on bag, and started to pack. I was not packing for a confrontation. I was packing for a hunt. The airplane cabin was a pressurized tube of recycled air and quiet murmurs. I was in seat 14A, a middle seat I had booked without a second thought. The woman I had been 12 hours ago would have been miserable. She would have noticed the cheap upholstery, the lack of legroom. But Eliza Vance was gone. Eliza Hayes was at work. I was not a woman flying to confront a cheating husband. I was an auditor flying toward an anomaly, and my laptop was my only necessary tool. I paid for the expensive, spotty in-flight Wi-Fi using my personal card. I did not bother with social media or his email. Amateurs look for the emotional. Professionals look for the structural. I started digging into the public-facing architecture of Vance Capital. Julian's company was his fortress, private, opaque, and built to repel inquiry. But even fortresses have public records. I searched the Delaware Secretary of State database. It is the go-to for anonymity, the easiest place to build a corporate shell. In the last 6 months, Julian had been busy. I found not one, but 4 new LLCs, all registered by his firm. Vance Global Strategy, Jev Holdings, Alpine Consortium. They sounded impressive and meaningless, exactly as they were intended to. I cross-referenced the registration filings. The organizer was a generic legal service, as expected, but the registered agent, the name listed for service of process, was not Julian's usual attorney. The name was Serafina Dubois. My fingers stopped moving. Serafina Dubois. The name tasted like acid. She was not just some random colleague. She was Julian's nemesis, his white whale, a rival from a competing firm who, according to Julian, had tried to poach his biggest clients. He loathed her. He detested her. He had used those exact words. He called her that shark, unethical, brilliant but soulless. I looked at her name on the screen. He was not sleeping with his rival. He was partnering with her. And the only thing Julian and Serafina had in common was a complete lack of moral restraint when it came to money. This was not a partnership. It was an alliance. And I, the trusting wife, was not part of their new venture. I was the venture. My focus narrowed. The assets. My assets. Before our marriage, I had inherited a substantial trust from my grandmother. It was old money, solid, and safe. Julian, with his private equity brilliance, had insisted on helping me restructure it. For tax efficiency. Love, he had explained, his voice so patient, so patronizing. We can leverage it, make it work for you. I had been stupid. I had been in love. I let him. I used a backdoor portal I still had from my Apex days to access complex legal filings, the ones not easily found on a simple Google search. I typed in the name of my trust, and there it was, a Uniform Commercial Code filing, dated 2 months prior, a transfer of controlling interest, a lien. My trust, my inheritance, was now listed as collateral, pledged to one of the new Delaware shell companies, the one named Alpine Consortium, the one registered by Serafina Dubois. I closed the laptop. The pieces did not just click into place, they slammed together with the force of a tectonic shift. This was not a midlife crisis, not a passionate affair. This was a financial purge. This was a calculated, deliberate, and hostile takeover of my life. Julian was not running away with another woman. He was executing a plan to strip me of every asset I owned, using my own money to do it, and then leaving me with the shell. The Zurich trip, the spoofed charges, the locked account. It was all a distraction. It was a timeline. He was planning to disappear. The flight attendant asked if I wanted a drink. I looked up, my face calm. Just water, please. When the plane began its descent through the thick, humid clouds, I felt no fear, only a cold, clarifying rage. The moisture of New Orleans was a palpable thing. Even inside the cabin, I felt like I was descending into a swamp. I landed at Louis Armstrong International Airport with a single, unadulterated purpose. I was not here to save my marriage. I was not here to cry or scream or beg for an explanation. I was here to burn his plan to the ground. The air in New Orleans hits you. It is not like Denver's dry, thin air. This is thick, wet, and heavy. It smells of jasmine, stale beer, and the river. I took a taxi, not to the French Quarter, but to a small, unassuming hotel in the Garden District. The Pontchartrain Palms. The sign was faded. The lobby smelled of industrial cleaner and chicory coffee. The clerk barely looked up. It was perfect. Eliza Vance stayed at 4-star resorts. Eliza Hayes was invisible. My room was small, with a rattling air conditioner and floral wallpaper that was peeling at the corners. I locked the door, dropped my bag, and immediately went to work. First, I left the hotel and found a drugstore. I bought a box of dark brown hair dye. Number 4, natural darkest brown. Back in the room, I spent an hour in the small, steamy bathroom, staining my scalp and turning my recognizable honey blonde hair into the anonymous color of mud. The smell of ammonia filled the room. When I looked in the mirror, a different woman looked back. A tired, serious woman. Good. Next, I found a clothing store on Magazine Street, a cheap one. I bought 2 pairs of linen trousers, a few plain t-shirts, and a wide-brimmed straw hat. I paid in cash. The $3,000 handbags and silk blouses I had left in Denver were a uniform. This was a disguise. Only then did I go to the French Quarter. The Monteleone Hotel was exactly as Julian would have liked it, old world, opulent, and dripping with a history of respectable sin. I did not go inside. I took up a position across the street, at a cafe with outdoor seating that gave me a clear view of the entrance. I ordered a coffee, put on my sunglasses and hat, and I waited. It took 4 hours. The humidity made my cheap t-shirt stick to my back. The sounds of a distant trombone and shouting tourists filled the air. And then I saw him. Julian walked out of the revolving door, looking exactly as he always did, perfect. His suit was custom, his hair was impeccable, he looked vital, energized, and completely at home. He was not sweating. And then Serafina Dubois exited behind him. She was tall, with severe black hair and a tailored white suit. She dripped power. They stood on the sidewalk, not touching, not looking at each other with affection. They looked like what they were, a board meeting of 2. They were not lovers sneaking around. They were a power couple. They were discussing strategy. A black car pulled up. They did not get in. 2 men in expensive, humid, inappropriate wool suits got out. They shook hands. Julian did the talking. Serafina watched, her arms crossed. I recognized the look. These were not clients. These were lawyers. The kind of lawyers who do not practice in a courtroom, but in offshore havens and private boardrooms. International asset specialists. I raised my phone, hidden by a newspaper on the table. The zoom was poor, but the image was clear. I took photos. I documented the time. Julian, Serafina, and 2 men whose briefcases probably held the legal framework to steal my life. I watched them go back inside. The Zurich trip was a ghost story, a complete fabrication designed to give him an alibi while he was right here, in New Orleans, conducting the real transactions. He was not closing a deal. He was opening a new life, funded by my past. I sat there for another hour, the coffee long gone. I was an auditor on the outside, looking in. I had the what. I had the who. I needed the how. I needed someone on the inside, someone who understood this world, this city. My mind raced through my old Apex Analytics contact list, and then a name, Marcus Thorne. He was a junior analyst when I was a senior. Smart, ambitious, a little sloppy. I had covered for him once, on a major mistake, a multi-million-dollar error that I had found and fixed before our boss ever saw it. I saved his career. And I knew he had moved back home to New Orleans 2 years ago. I found his name online. He was a vice president at a local firm now. Good for him. I paid for my coffee in cash, walked 2 blocks away, and used my prepaid burner phone, the one I had bought at the Denver airport, to make the call. He picked up on the 3rd ring. Marcus Thorne. Marcus, this is Eliza Hayes. The silence on the other end was heavy. He knew exactly who I was, and he knew I had not called him in 6 years to catch up. Eliza, wow, what can I do for you? I did not waste time. I need information on a lawyer in New Orleans. His name is René Boudreau. I had read the name on the briefcase of one of the men. A lucky zoom. And when you get me this information, you will delete this call, you will forget my name, and we will never have spoken. Are we clear? We met at a place called Café du Monde, but not the famous one. This was a tiny, sticky table knockoff deep in the Marigny, where the tourists never went. It smelled of burnt coffee and river water. Marcus was already there, huddled in a back booth, his leg bouncing under the table. He looked like he had not slept. "Eliza," he said, his voice a low hiss. He did not look me in the eye. "You look different." "My hair. It's new," I said, sliding into the booth. I did not have time for pleasantries. "René Boudreau." "What do you know?" Marcus licked his lips. "You should not be saying that name. Eliza, not here, not anywhere. You owe me, Marcus. That audit error at Apex. It would have ended you. I am here to collect." He flinched. The memory was clearly still potent. Okay. He's not a lawyer. Not really. He's a fixer. He's the guy the old money families in this city use when things need to. Go away. Assets, people, problems. Boudreau makes them vanish. This confirmed what I saw. Julian was not just moving my money. He was erasing it. He was erasing me. "But that's not the worst part," Marcus said, leaning in. His fear was a sour smell. "He has one primary client. He's the private personal counsel for one man, Antoine Dubois. Dubois. Seraphina's father, the oil tycoon. The man is a legend, and not in a good way. He owns half the politicians in the state. Boudreau is his right hand." It was like a switch being thrown in a dark room. The light was blinding. Julian was not just partnering with Seraphina. He was auditioning. He was trying to get in with her father. He was trading up. My trust fund was his entry fee, a dowry to prove his ruthlessness and to buy his way into an empire. I was not just being replaced by a mistress. I was being liquidated so he could upgrade his entire life, his family, his status. I was a leveraged buyout. "I need to go," Marcus said, his eyes darting to the door. "Eliza, you are in way over your head. These are not Denver private equity guys. These are old world dangerous." "One more thing," I said, my voice holding him in place. "Vance Capital. Any rumors? Anything strange?" Marcus paused. He seemed to be weighing his fear against the debt he owed me. It's just gossip," he stammered. "But the word on the street is Julian is cleaning house. There's a junior analyst, Leo somebody. Smart kid, they say. Julian is about to fire him. No reason given. Just gone." "Leo," I repeated, committing the name to memory. "Thank you, Marcus. We are even—" He was out of the booth before I finished the sentence, walking quickly, not running, but wanting to. I sat there as the ceiling fan wobbled overhead, stirring the thick, hot air. A junior analyst, about to be fired, a kid with access to everything, a kid with a motive for revenge. I went back to my hotel room. The peeling wallpaper seemed to close in on me. I opened my secure laptop. Leo, a young analyst in Denver. Access. He would have server-level permissions. Motive. He knows he's getting fired. The text. 3:17 a.m. The ping. A cell tower 3 blocks from my penthouse. My God, it was him. He was not trying to save me. He was not a white knight. He was a disgruntled employee, trying to save himself. He was planting a bomb inside Julian's world, and I was the detonator he had chosen. He probably thought I would go nuclear, file for a messy public divorce, and expose Julian out of emotional rage. He underestimated me, but he also gave me the key. I found his internal company email address in under 5 minutes. I composed a new message from a secure, encrypted account I had just created. The message was simple. I did not identify myself. I did not need to. He's not just firing you. He's planning to set you up as the fall guy for the trades. You want revenge? I want justice. Let's work together. I hit send. The ball was in his court. Now, we waited. The reply from Leo came 2 hours later. It was not a message. It was a single file, a secure shell access key. He did not need to say anything else. He was in. I was back in my hotel room. The air conditioner rattled, fighting the Louisiana humidity. I plugged my secure laptop into the wall, opened a virtual private network routed through 3 different countries, and used Leo's key. I was inside the Vance Capital servers. For 6 years, I had been a partner. I had been ornamental. Now, I was a forensic accountant on the hunt, and I was inside the vault. The woman Julian had asked to quit, the woman he thought was probably at a spa in Denver, was in his digital kingdom. I did not look for love letters or hotel receipts. I went straight to the trading logs, the general ledger, and the wire transfer authorizations. The digital dust was everywhere. My fingers moved with an old, familiar rhythm. I began the real audit. The public filings I had seen on the plane were just the tip of the iceberg. The shell companies in Delaware were the public face. But the real damage was in the trading accounts. I found them, buried under client-side folders, mislabeled. The truth, when it finally unspooled on my screen, was far uglier than a simple theft. Julian had not just pledged my trust fund. He had used it as collateral for a series of incredibly high-risk, high-leverage derivatives trades. He had done it without my knowledge, without my consent, forging my digital signature on the authorizations, and he had lost. I ran the numbers. My stomach hollowed out. He had not just lost a little. He had been wiped out. He had lost millions. No, he had lost tens of millions. The whole was staggering. He had leveraged my inheritance, lost it all, and was now trying to cover the margin calls, the Zurich trip, the Serafina alliance. It all clicked into place, but not in the way I thought. This was not a financial purge to get richer. This was not a man trading his wife for a new one. This was a cover-up. Julian was not just broke, he was fraudulent. He was facing total ruin, and very likely criminal prosecution. The SEC would eat him alive for this. He did not need Serafina as a partner. He needed her as a bailout. He needed her family's oil money, their political influence, their army of fixer lawyers like René Boudreau to make this all disappear. And my trust fund, the one he had already lost, that was his buy-in. It was the offering he was bringing to the altar, a gesture of goodwill to Serafina to prove he was still a player, to show he had assets to contribute. He was offering them something that was not even his to give, something that was already gone. He was trying to sell a ghost. I kept digging, my blood turning to ice. The horror was not over. I found the final set of documents, the ones Boudreau must have drafted. They were structured with a terrible legal precision. He was framing me. The initial fraudulent trades, the ones he made using my trust fund, the digital signatures were mine. The authorization forms listed my name. The structure was designed so that if the whole thing collapsed, if Serafina and her father decided not to play ball, the paper trail would not lead to Julian. It would lead to me. He was not just leaving me with nothing. He was planning to leave me holding the bag. I would be the one taking the fall. I would be the one facing the SEC investigators. I would be the one facing prison. I looked at the peeling floral wallpaper of the cheap hotel room. The walls were closing in. This was not about money anymore. This was not about love or betrayal. This was about my freedom. He had put a gun to my head to save himself. I had been a fool, but he had made a critical mistake. He had forgotten who I was before I was his wife. He had forgotten that I was the one who taught him how to read a balance sheet. And now, I was the only one who could see the full picture. I was not just a liability. I was the only person who knew the truth. And I was coming. I left the cheap hotel. I left the straw hat and the linen pants in a trash can on Royal Street. I did not go back to being Eliza Vance, the wife. I went to a boutique and, using my secret credit card, I bought a single perfectly tailored black dress. It was simple, severe, and expensive. I was done hiding in the shadows. A frontal assault was the only way. The Hotel Monteleone lobby was a different world from the Pontchartrain Palms. It was all polished marble, glittering chandeliers, and the hushed sound of old money. I walked through it as if I belonged there. No one stopped me. I headed straight for the Carousel Bar. It was exactly as absurd as it sounded. A circular bar, slowly revolving, like a child's ride for cynical adults. And there she was, Serafina Dubois, sitting alone at a small table just off the main bar, nursing a martini. She was not revolving. She was holding court, waiting. I ordered a club soda from a waitress and found a seat in the lounge area, partially obscured by a potted palm, but with a clear view of both Serafina and the hotel entrance. I waited. 40 minutes later, Julian came down from the elevators. He kissed Serafina on the cheek, a dry, passionless gesture of ownership. He spoke to her for less than a minute, checked his watch, and then walked out the front door, alone. A solo meeting. This was my chance. He was confident. He was arrogant. He had left the two women he was betraying in the same building. I stood up, picked up my drink, and walked over to her table. I did not slide in. I stood over her. She looked up, and for a fraction of a second, her mask of cold indifference slipped. She recognized me. She knew exactly who I was. Her eyes narrowed. "You should not be here, Mrs. Vance," she said. Her voice was like crushed ice. "Neither should you," I replied. I sat down without being invited, placing my glass on the table. "He's lying to you, too." A flicker of amusement. "Is he? Are you here to tell me my boyfriend is married? I know who you are." I'm not impressed. I almost smiled. This is not about an affair. I do not care who he's sleeping with. I am here because he is not just lying to you about me. He is lying to you about the money. Her amusement vanished. She was listening. I did not pull out spreadsheets. I did not show her the digital signatures. I reached into my purse and pulled out a simple, black USB drive. I placed it on the table between us. It was the only thing there besides our drinks. "Julian is not bringing assets to your family. Serafina," I said, my voice low and clear. "He is bringing a disaster. He is bringing an SEC investigation, and he is bringing it to your father's doorstep." Her eyes locked on mine. Not a trace of fear, just pure, unadulterated focus. "He did not just lose his money," I continued. "He lost my money. Tens of millions of dollars, gone, in a series of fraudulent, high-risk trades. He's insolvent. The man you are partnering with is a walking margin call. He has assets," she countered, her voice tight. "Your trust." "He is trying to sell you a ghost," I said. "My trust is the collateral he used for the trades he already lost. It's gone. He is using your family's influence, your father's name, and your lawyer, Boudreau, to cover up the hole. He is not joining your empire. He is using it as a shield. He is making you and your father accessories to federal wire fraud." I leaned in. "He is not giving you my trust fund. He is giving you my liability. He has structured this entire deal so that if it collapses, I take the fall. But the SEC will not stop with me. They will see the cover-up. They will see the new money. They will see your father. And they will pull the whole thing down." I let the words hang in the air. The piano in the next room started playing a lazy jazz tune. Serafina Dubois was a ruthless businesswoman. I had gambled on one thing a woman like her would hate being made a fool of in a deal far more than she would hate being a mistress. The personal was irrelevant. The business was everything. She looked at the USB drive. She looked at me. The ice in her eyes was no longer aimed at me. It was aimed at Julian. She was not a woman betrayed. She was an investor who had been defrauded. She picked up the USB drive, her movements precise. She did not ask me what was on it. She knew. She looked at me, a new, cold respect in her gaze. "What do you want?" Our alliance was not built on trust. It was a hostile merger, forged in mutual contempt for one man. We worked out of a suite Serafina had booked at a different hotel, a sterile, modern place that had none of the Monteleone's charm. It was a war room. Serafina did not take my word for it. She did not need to. She made one call to her father, and within an hour, a team of analysts working for Antoine Dubois, men who were likely far more criminal than I was, tore through the data on the USB drive. She sat across from me, sipping an espresso, her phone on the table. When the confirmation came, her face did not change, but the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Her rage was not like mine. Mine was a fire. Hers was a glacier. It was cold, silent, and capable of crushing continents. "He lost $32 million, she said, her voice a flat, dead calm. "He lost it, and then he came to my father to ask for 50. "He needed the new money to cover the old hole," I said. "He used your name," she replied. "And he was about to use mine." She looked at me, the first time I think she truly saw me. "You were right. He was using us as a shield." The work was not over. Now that we were on the same side, we dug deeper, this time as a team. My forensic skills, backed by her family's less-than-legal resources and Leo's remote access. It was Leo, our man in Denver, who found the final, shocking piece of the puzzle. Julian was not just betraying me, and he was not just conning Serafina. He was betraying everyone. "There's a third account?" Leo's encrypted message popped up. "It's not on the main server. It's a ghost, a corporate expense-coded account, but the wires are not going to a vendor. They're going to the Caymans." He had a plan B, a secret, personal escape hatch. He was siphoning money from the new deal, the one meant to bail him out. He was taking a cut from Serafina's father's money, and he was draining the last dregs of another, smaller account of mine. He was planning to take it all, abandon the deal, and leave both me and Serafina to face the fallout of his massive fraud. He was going to vanish, a rich man, leaving us holding the smoldering ruins. That was the moment the alliance solidified. This was not just about getting our money back. This was about annihilation. "He loves to celebrate," Serafina said, a slow, dangerous smile touching her lips for the first time. "He thinks this is his masterpiece. He needs to believe he's won." She made the arrangements. A celebratory dinner to close the deal. A private room at Commander's Palace, the pinnacle of New Orleans' old-world power. Her father would not be able to attend, but was sending his blessing. Julian would walk in thinking he was about to become royalty. While she was setting the physical stage, I was in the hotel suite with Leo on a secure line, setting the digital one. I had already, through Marcus, retained my own lawyer, a quiet, sharp woman from a small but powerful local firm. "We cannot just stop the transfers." "Leo," I explained, my fingers flying. "The moment he sees a failed transaction, he'll bolt. The accounts will be frozen. We'll never see the money." "So what do we do?" His message came back. "We do not stop them." I typed. "We change the destination. Julian is moving all the liquid assets into one central closing account. Correct the one Boudreaux set up. Yes, it's set to execute tomorrow at 7 p.m., right when he'll be at dinner. You and I are going to be inside that transaction," I said. "We are going to change one thing. The final routing number. It will not go to Boudreaux's account. It will all be redirected, every single cent, to a new, secure escrow account my lawyer just established." The silence on the line was heavy. That's not just fraud. Eliza, that's a digital heist." "He is trying to send me to prison." "Leo," I typed. "This is not a heist. This is an audit. We are reclassifying a stolen asset to its rightful owner. We get one chance. The window will be open for maybe 60 seconds. It has to be perfect. The moment he signs that paper at dinner, the moment he thinks he has won." We hit execute. The plan was set. Serafina would handle the man. I would handle the money. Tomorrow night, Julian Vance would order champagne, believing he was the smartest man in the world. And we, the women he had dismissed as collateral damage, would be taking him for everything he had. Commander's Palace is not a restaurant. It is a monument to New Orleans' power. The private dining rooms are hushed, expensive, and paneled in dark, rich wood. The air smells of butter, old wine, and deals being made. We had been given a 2-room suite, the main dining room, and a smaller, adjacent service lounge. That lounge was where I sat, in silence, with my lawyer. I had a laptop open, the screen dark. I was waiting for a text from Leo. Through the crack in the door, I watched the main room. Serafina was already seated, a vision in emerald green. She looked bored, which was, I knew, her most dangerous state. At precisely 7:30, Julian arrived. He did not just enter the room, he conquered it. He was radiant, his face flushed with triumph. He was wearing a new, outrageously expensive watch, one I did not recognize. He kissed Serafina's hand, a gesture so false and courtly it made my stomach turn. "My love," he said, his voice booming with a confidence that was about to be extinguished. "You look incredible." "You, too, Julian," she said, her voice a purr. A celebratory drink, a waiter, one Serafina had personally approved, entered with a bottle of champagne. Julian took the glass, his smile so wide it looked like a mask. He believed he had done it. He had outsmarted his wife, conned his mistress, and secured his future. He was, in this moment, the king of the world. He raised his glass. To us, Serafina, to the future, to Alpine Consortium. May it be everything we dreamed of. My phone vibrated in my hand. A single text from Leo. "Done. The wires are ours. Execute." Serafina did not raise her glass. She smiled, a slow, cold movement of her lips. "To the future, Julian. But you are missing one of the partners. There is someone else who wants to congratulate you." Julian's smile faltered, replaced by a flicker of confusion. "What are you talking about?" "Your father." "No," she said. The door to the lounge clicked open. I stepped out of the shadows and into the warm, dim light of the dining room. I was wearing the black dress. I was calm. Julian's face was a masterpiece of emotional collapse. It went from confusion to disbelief to a pale, clammy, animalistic panic. His hand, the one holding the champagne, began to tremble. The glass tilted, spilling foam on the antique rug. He stared at me as if I were a ghost, as if he could not comprehend how I was in this room, in this city, in his moment of triumph. I stopped at the end of the table. "Hello, Julian," I said. My voice was quiet, even, and carried across the room. "Did you have a good flight from Zurich?" The blood drained from his face. His eyes darted from me to Serafina. He saw her face, the cold, unforgiving smile. He saw me, the wife he thought was 8,000 kilometers away, the wife he was framing for his own crimes. He understood. The trap had sprung. "You," he whispered, his voice cracking. He was not looking at me. He was staring at Serafina. "You did this. You, bitch." Serafina finally picked up her own glass. Not the champagne, but a glass of water. She took a slow, deliberate sip. She looked at him, not with anger, but with a kind of detached pity, the way a scientist might look at a failed experiment. "He thought we were sheep, Julian," Serafina said, her voice cutting through his panic. "He did not realize we were the wolves." Julian's face contorted, the panic curdling into a dark, venomous rage. "This is insane." "You!" he snarled at Serafina. "You think your father is going to let you get away with this. He'll crush you. And you." He turned his fury on me. "You are my wife. You have no idea what you are doing. You are emotionally hysterical. You cannot just—" "I can," I interrupted. My voice was not loud, but it cut through his tirade like a diamond. "I know exactly what I am doing. Julian, I am a forensic accountant. You seem to have forgotten that. My lawyer, who had entered the room behind me, stepped forward and placed a thick, spiral-bound document on the table. It landed with a heavy, definitive thud. "This," I said, tapping the cover, "is your audit, the real one." He stared at it. "It's all in there," I said, my voice calm and cold. "Every fraudulent trade, every forged digital signature, the illegal leveraging of my trust fund to cover your initial losses, the $32 million you burned through before you ever even spoke to Serafina. It's all documented. The entire paper trail you tried to build to frame me for your crimes. It's all here. I found it." I let that sink in. I watched the last flicker of defiance in his eyes. "But you are not just a fraud, Julian. You are sloppy." My lawyer placed a second, much thinner file on top of the first. "And this is the wire confirmation for your third account. The secret one. The one in the Caymans." His face, which had been pale, turned the color of ash. That was the one he thought no one knew about. The escape hatch he was funding by skimming from both me and Serafina. "You were planning on betraying us both," Serafina said, her voice dripping with contempt. "You are not a shark, Julian. You are just a parasite." He collapsed into his chair, a puppet with its strings cut. He looked at the documents. He knew he was not just caught. He was surgically exposed. He tried one last, desperate gambit, a hoarse whisper. "It does not matter. The transfers, they were authorized. The money is gone. It's moved. You are too late." I almost smiled. "You are right, Julian. The money is gone. The final transfer executed at 7 p.m., exactly as you scheduled it from Zurich." I leaned forward, placing my hands on the table. "What you do not know is that my associate and I were inside that transaction. We did not stop it. We just amended it. We changed the final routing numbers, all of it the last of my assets, the capital from Serafina's father, even the money from your little Cayman account. It did not go to Boudreaux. It all went to a single, secure escrow account, an account controlled by my lawyer." I stood up straight. "As of 7:01 p.m., I am in control of everything, even Serafina's money." Serafina herself looked at me, a flicker of genuine shock in her eyes, quickly replaced by a cold, sharp respect. I had not just outplayed Julian, I had outplayed everyone. "So here is the deal," I said. My lawyer pushed a single sheet of paper in front of him, next to a heavy black fountain pen. "This is not a negotiation. That paper is a full confession. It is also a legal agreement. You will sign it, relinquishing any and all claims to my assets, my trust, and my inheritance, effective immediately. You will also sign your resignation from Vance Capital, transferring full unilateral control to the company's primary creditor, which, as of 20 minutes ago, is me." He stared at the paper. "And if you do not, I said, my lawyer will walk out of this room, get in a car, and drive to the U.S. Attorney's Office. A copy of this audit will be on their desk in an hour, and a second copy will be messengered to Antoine Dubois. You will be in a federal prison by the end of the week. Sign." The silence in the room was absolute, broken only by the distant sound of jazz from the courtyard. His hand, trembling, reached for the pen. He uncapped it. He signed his name, the scratch of the nib, the sound of his entire world ending. I took the paper. My lawyer collected the audit. Serafina stood up and smoothed her dress. "The bill, Julian," she said, "is on you." We turned, and we walked out of the room. We left him there, alone, with the overpriced champagne and the signature that had just erased him. I walked out of the restaurant, through the opulent lobby, and out onto the street. The thick, humid New Orleans air hit my face, smelling of jasmine and the river, and for the first time in 6 years, I took a deep, full breath. I was free. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where in the world you are listening from, So please share your city in the comments below so we can connect. Be sure to subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories and like this video. If you want to support the channel, please hit that hype button so this story can be heard by more people.